What's up, friends? Today we have a quick, hopefully, video on the MLR. Today we're going to be switching between the two sets of gear drives that fit on the MLR. Interesting story here. I actually got the gear drives that are on here right now from Kieran at ESkateCon. My team, me and two other guys, Tucker and Julong, we're going to race this in the urethane race with the 125mm Mad Wheels, which we did. And we were going to do it with these drives, which are pretty big. And it technically worked, and I made these custom 3D printed adapters for the Mad Wheels, and that's what we were going to do. But I ended up talking to Kieran and getting these 3.1 ratio drives, which increased the top speed a lot, because I was only able to get like 28 miles an hour on those 125 wheels. It might have even been less than that, but today we're going to be swapping between the two to show you guys how to install gear drives on the MLR. It's really quite simple, and this should just be a useful, informative video for you guys who are looking to change between the higher ratio 4.3 drives and the lower ratio 3.1. First things first, you do have to take off the wheels for this. Interestingly enough, you don't actually have to take the pinion off of the motor, which is really, really useful. And you don't have to disassemble the gear drive whatsoever. This gear drive can be put onto the truck with just 3 screws. So this should be pretty quick. We do need to swap the motor plates. So there's a different motor plate for the big gear drive versus the small gear drive. It fits onto there like that. And then this plate is what screws onto the motor. And then there's screws that go through in the other direction to fit it all together. So let's go ahead and get the wheel off, and then we'll pull off the motor. All right, so we got our wheel off. We got to pull off the little adapter with the spider. And then you can see your gear drives here. And I'm going to have to show you this a little bit differently. I'll have to switch the camera angle, but for now I'm going to pull off the motor, and then we will need to get to the back side for 3 screws back here that hold on this smaller gear drive. So I actually just stuck the Allen key into the screw that we need to take out. You can kind of see there's actually 4 screws down here that hold the gear drive on. These are 4mm Allen, and then that'll pop the gear drive off, and then we can take off the motor. So let's do that now. All right, just like that, we got 4 screws out, and now the gear drive can come free. We do, however, want to pull off the motor so that we can pull the gear drive off without unhooking the cables. So there's going to be 4 screws on top of the motor. 1, 2, 3, and 4. These are going to be a smaller Allen key, I believe. It's going to be the 3. So we'll take these out. Do be aware the motor will fall out once you pull out the final screws. And there you go. Here's your motor plate for the small gear drive, and now this just pops right off. To swap to the bigger gear drive, all you have to do is just pop it on and put in the 3 screws that hold it there, and then reattach the motor. We do need to swap out the motor plate first, so let's go ahead and do that. All right, it's been a while since I put these on. I forgot, you actually do have to take this plate off too. So we'll take off this plate, and then we can put this back on. There is actually a different screw for the bigger motor plate that goes on the large gear drives, which is this short button head, and it should be supplied, well, it should be installed by default, because realistically, if you're getting an MLR, it's going to have the 4.3 ratio drives on it, which are the larger ones, and it should already have these screws on it. So if you're swapping to the smaller gear drives, you'll need to make sure you switch to the silver screws that come with the small gear drives in the box. All right, so there's the motor or the gear drive plate off, and now this can sit on and goes straight on here. So you can technically select the angle. So we're just gonna put it at the one that was closest to what we were at before, which I think is about there. And then there will be 3 large screws that go into the gear drive mounting plate. And these are going to be a 4mm as well. Probably a good idea to put some Loctite on these to keep them nice and snug in there. Don't want these to come out and shred up your plastic wheel gear. All right, so all 3 screws in here are torqued down. Only thing left to do is put the motor back on, and this is going to be pretty easy. It's just 5 screws, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and those are going to be shorter M4 ones. So we'll grab those and put those in. Once you're all tightened up, always good to do a spin to make sure there's nothing grinding or sounding weird. Now, to me, it does look like the cable could go a little bit lower, so you could do 1 notch lower, but since this is the angle we're currently at, I'm just gonna leave it. To put it all back together, you can stick either the adapter onto the drive first or stick it onto the wheel, but Meepo makes it pretty easy. And then you got your wheel back on, spacer, nut, and that is one side completely done. Very easy. Don't have to redetect or anything. All you're gonna have to do is make sure you change the gear ratio in your remote from the 4.3 to the 3.1 if you're switching to the small drive, or from the 3.1 to the 4.3 if you're switching back to the big drive. And that is just so that you can read your speed accurately on the remote. It doesn't actually make any difference for how the ESC drives the wheels. So we'll go ahead and swap out the other side real quick. We'll just do a time lapse of me doing that. It should be pretty easy. All right, we are technically done. And obviously I can't spin this bottom one, but they both spin nicely. Everything is installed correctly. And yes, this tire is deflated right now. But this is a bonus section for you guys who are interested. We're going to be changing the gear ratio on here, and it's pretty simple to do, but you do have to go into pairing mode. So we're just going to press and hold this until it turns on, and you see your selections on here. And all you have to do, like 2-wheel drive, press and hold this to turn off the board, and then press and hold to turn it on, and hold it until it blinks fast, and it'll pair. Now we go speed units, whatever you want, motor type, belt gear, of course, wheel diameter 165, drive ratios. You can see we have it set to 3.1 right now. Well, you can't really see it very well, but it is set to 3.1, so we're gonna go set this to 4.3, right there. Motor pull pairs, of course we don't need to change. Brake level, I have set at 90%. I actually have quite a few custom settings on here right now, so I'm gonna go through those in another video. And there you go. You have your new speed set, and it should be accurate for this gear drive ratio. So you just do the same thing in opposite 4.3 down to 3.1. And that pretty much concludes this install. So let's do an outro. All right, lighting's kind of weird, but just a quick outro. This is a pretty simple install. I think anyone could do this, and honestly, switching to the 3.1 is a great move. You get more top speed, you still have a good deal of torque, and you can really throw this around a lot better on those longer tracks. So I encourage the 3.1 drive upgrade. I don't know if Meepo will ever offer it as an option when you're purchasing the MLR, but for me and for our experience on the track, it's done a lot better with 3.1. You have a ton of torque with a 4.3, but in my experience so far, I just really can't get it over 35, especially before the battery starts dipping. This is a 16S2P version, and the battery really gets drained quickly. So hopefully you guys found this useful. I'm not sure how many people will be doing this swap, but I think it is a good idea, so figured I would make it and put it out there. Stay safe, keep on riding, and peace out.